What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We know Sega is going back and attempting to revive some of their older intellectual properties, and now it appears, based on some rumors that are circulating, they could be going back and doing a remake for one of those IPs, one that's surprising a lot of people, but also coming from, we'll just say, a questionable source. We'll go over that, though, here today. Also, we did have reviews for Luigis Mansion 2 HD get out there, as well as, well, who's developing the thing, because that continues to be news for Nintendo. And then also we have a really funny breakthrough, we'll say, in the emulation scene, one that is definitely an interesting way to experience things like Game Boy Advance games. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps it a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with a release date that has now been announced for Epic Mickey. This is the remaster remake that is coming way of THQ Nordic, and we can see this trailer that was posted up. And this is the Epic Mickey Rebrushed release date reveal. It is coming out September 24th. Of course, this is for PC, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, so just on all platforms. Now, they have a regular edition that'll be $60, and they also have a collector's edition that is, a couple $100. And the thing that's really cool about it, though, I will say, the statue actually looks pretty neat. I don't really know the quality of it necessarily. It's not right in front of me, but I will say, having Mickey there with kind of the paint arcing over him at least it looks good here in these images. Looks like you have a little like steelbook case, big box that it comes with, keychain and stuff. So I guess fans of Epic Mickey, there is at least a collector's edition to look into. I am curious about revisiting this one, though, later on in the year. I thought it was an interesting take on just the Mickey franchise in general for video games, which is something that's been ongoing for quite a while, dating back to, from what I remember, really playing back on like the 16-bit systems with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But this one was a lot of fun, I think, on the Wii, and I'll be checking out again later on this year. Just have to figure out which system I'm going to be picking it up on. Also, as expected, it does look like another game from Microsoft is being delisted, specifically in their racing genre, this one being Forza Horizon 4. A lot of the Forza games just get delisted over time. It's pretty common, mostly because of the licensing, obviously, of the different cars, but we can see this is posted up over on their website, where they say on December 15th, Forza Horizon 4 will be delisted from stores and Xbox Game Pass. This means the game and its additional content will no longer be available for purchase. Players who already own the game and its content will be able to download and play it as normal, including its offline, online, and multiplayer features. Physical copies of the game purchased after this date will also work and will be able to use online features. So if you're someone who's been on the fence about this, or I guess if you're just playing on Game Pass and you really like playing specifically the fourth Forza Horizon, I'd recommend buying this, as it looks like they are going to be doing discounts between now and the time of it being delisted. So I guess keep an eye out, because what they did previously with other Forza games, I remember they cut it down by like 85%. It was extremely cheap to buy it up until they delisted it, so might be a good idea just to check it out there, or I guess pick up a physical copy if you don't already have one, because, well, that's going to work obviously down the road since, you know, you actually have the game. Oh, and I just wanted to point this out for anyone who is looking into maybe any big purchases that are coming up in the next couple of weeks from, say, Amazon, as Prime Day is upcoming here. Actually, in July, we can see this posted up over on Amazon's website, saying Prime Day is back July 16th to the 17th, 2024. They go over all kinds of different categories. There are things that will be on sale, and obviously the big one I'd be focusing on personally, at least for this channel and the show, anything with electronics or video games, and I'd expect there to be quite a bit that'll be on sale, especially, and I say this all the time when we have any of these like any of these sales that are being run, storage for your game consoles, for your PC, for your Steam Deck, your PC gaming handheld. Typically SD cards are cut tremendously. Like we're talking like 60 or 70%. Sometimes you can get like a 128 gigabyte card for, we've seen it at times go for like $10 or something. So it gets pretty cheap in general. So that's what I would be checking out, or at least looking towards Prime Day for, but who knows? There's all kinds of stuff across the board. Just wanted to bring it to your attention just in case you were looking to buy something, hold off for a few weeks, maybe get a bit cheaper. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a remake from Sega that is currently circulating in the rumor mill now, and it's unfortunate because the source originally, like, a month or so ago would have been felt like would have been confirmed just about, because for a while there were two known leakers that had a very good track record, that being Midori and Piaro, and in like a month it's all wiped off the board at this point and they're both just kind of gone. But it seems like we still have some remnants from their accounts that are circulating, and this one was picked up and was run all across different gaming outlets. I do have IGN specifically pointed out because they have reached out to Sega for comments, so we'll see if we get any kind of response, but we can see this posted up over on their website, where they say Sega allegedly developing Jet Set Radio Remake as screenshots and gameplay surfaces. I can't show you the screenshots or the gameplay because in the off chance that this is absolutely true and we have early development footage getting out there, well, Sega's not going to like that and they'll obviously come striking stuff down. But I can show you the top half of that tweet minus the screenshots, and I'll have it sourced down below for you if you'd like to check it out for yourself. This is from Miss Kazi saying, a remake of the original Jet Set Radio is in the works at Sega. It is a full remake of the Dreamcast game and is not related to the free-to-play reboot. So if you're unaware, there is a reboot. Obviously, Sega has mentioned this, shown it at with Jeff Keighley's event. But some of the additional information that has kind of gotten out there, again, through way of rumors, and even at times Sega with their interviews alluding to this, it's going to be more in line with live service kind of angle for it. It seems like this would be a game, Jet Set Radio, that they would be putting a lot of resources behind and want to make up more on the back end when it comes to, I mean, look, think about all this stuff they can sell for Jet Set Radio when it comes to customization. Let's say that they let you make your own little hideout and you can customize that, obviously with your characters, different emblems that you can spray paint. I mean, really the list goes on and on and on for stuff that they can essentially sell you beyond either the initial purchase price or them just getting you in the door free to play, looking to make it up all other ways. Well, let's say they did want to maybe get something out there a bit sooner, just as a way to get people reminded of the Jet Set Radio franchise. Yeah, you'd remake the first one from the Dreamcast, Jet Set Radio everywhere in the world, Jet Grind Radio here in the US, and put it out there and see how it goes. Because we have had that remastered and moved to different systems in the past, but I think a full remake where they can modernize the controls themselves and of course update the visuals and stuff so it works better, say on a 4K set, and take advantage of some of these newer systems and newer computer configurations with these stronger video cards would be awesome, because that is an art style that I think would age beautifully for current systems. That said, I mentioned the source, bit sketchy here with Midori after what's happened there, with them kind of being exposed as being multiple people. And then there's a person apparently in the US that was like cosplaying as a person in Japan. It's a whole thing there. And I will say some of the screenshots and even the 30 seconds or so of just video of person apparently playing the in development build looks very reminiscent of stuff that we've seen before from Sega, whether they had this whole pitch video that was circulating, or even some of the small clips that they showed when they were going back and forth between projects in that trailer, with Jet Set Radio being one of them. I don't necessarily know if we're looking at something that is actually going to come out and become a thing, because there could be wires crossed in the background, or maybe they were attempting that and they decided to shift over to something that would be much larger with this free-to-play or live service style angle. Well, I guess we'll wait and see, because the word is that this Jet Set Radio push would be starting probably as early as next year, and well, I guess this would be a way to really kick things off. Next up, let's talk about Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. It is out on the 27th, continuing that Thursday release cadence for Nintendo, and you know, I don't actually mind that. I think it's good to kind of have it thrown in there, not middle of the week, but also not right up against the weekend. So Thursday, not a bad release day the more I'm seeing it now. But with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD out here tomorrow, we do have reviews, of course, that went live. Ahead of that, though, we also found out who's developing this thing, and that is Tantalus, who actually worked on Skyward Sword HD, and I would say did a pretty good job with that one, as well as Twilight Princess HD. So they have been working, of course, closely with Nintendo, and this just seems to be their latest project as they work to remaster, I guess, this game from the 3DS up to the Switch. And we have reviews that we could take a look at here, which we can see over on Metacritic. It's currently sitting at a 78. This is on 55 critic reviews, 42 of them positive, 13 mixed. If we take a look at the top, IGN Spain gave it a 90, saying Nintendo brings back one of the biggest Luigi games, and now it looks impressive on Switch. Instead, it prefers to maintain its essence with few playable new features, especially a multiplayer mode. Even so, it's still an essential game. Moving down the list a bit, though, we have Daily Star with an 80, saying Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is very much a revamped version of a classic game. It's nicely brought up to modern gaming visuals by the Nintendo bods, but remains at its heart a very strong video game in the Mario franchise. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Tech Radar Gaming giving it a 60, saying Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is a no-frills port of the 3DS game, with some minor visual upgrades. It won't win over those who dislike the original, but it's a solid experience for everyone else. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's the same game that you may have played on the 3DS, just looks visually better, and it costs $20 more. Now, they did play around with some of the controls, because obviously you have 2 analog sticks here as opposed to the 3DS where they have to account for just that one stick, even though I know the new 3DS XL did have the second nub on the right. It still had to play on the standard 3DS with just the one analog stick. But still, I think it's just a harder sell for someone who played through Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on the 3DS and when they just play through it again here on the Switch, maybe they really liked it and they want to see it with upgraded visuals for $20 more. Me personally, this is one of those situations where I feel like I have a lot that I'm playing right now anyway, and I might check back in on it later if I see it at a good sale, maybe $40 or less just to sort of add it to the collection. But if you've never played it before, it's still a very good game. It's Luigi's Mansion 2, technically, right? HD or Dark Moon, and I thought it was a lot of fun on the 3DS, and yeah, it'd probably be even better now with upgraded visuals like we're seeing here with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Next up, let's talk about Emulation having another breakthrough, as now you can play it on a watch, officially. It's not necessarily something you are hacking the watch to do. You are just playing it outright on your Apple Watch. As we know, Apple has opened the floodgates essentially when it comes to most emulation. There's still some stuff when it comes to the higher end emulation, say with like GameCube and PlayStation 2. But for the most part, you are seeing things like Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and around that sort of era playing really well. And now it also extends to your Apple Watch. I saw this was posted up. People are tagging me in it over on Twitter X here. This is with Nintendo. It says Game & Watch is real. The Arc Emu is a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance emulator for Apple Watch, and it's available now for $1.99 on the App Store. And I'm looking at this image of them showing it in action. And first, I want to give them credit. It is impressive. Like the fact that we are in an age now where you can play Pokemon Emerald on a watch that's just right there on your wrist at all times. It's pretty cool stuff, right? It actually feels futuristic in that regard. Sure. I don't know how well this would play for most games. I think for Pokemon Emerald, just as an example, a turn-based RPG like this, slower, it worked fine. I mean, you can see the arrows at the bottom, A and B, R and L are little guys on the sides there. Start, select menu at the top, and then you have most of the screen real estate for the game. Yeah, sure, because if you think about it, you lose one hand immediately where you have to hold the watch up and look at it, so you're mostly just going to use maybe an index finger on your right or left hand, depending on opposite there, and that's how you're just going to move around. So platformers, anything with quick reaction times, probably out of the question, but yeah, I can actually see this working well enough for something like Pokemon Emerald, and now your Pokemon games can follow you around all the time right there on your watch. If anything, I think it is pretty interesting just to see how far emulation continues to be pushed. And yeah, Apple opening up their ecosystem officially, I'll say, to emulators is doing some very impressive stuff across the board. And the Apple TV, the 4K TV, that's had some support thrown its way, and I think that could even be just through some of my early testing with it. One of the better emulation boxes you can buy now, and if things continue to kind of roll forward like we're seeing with even things like this Apple Watch emulator, maybe we could get to a point where GameCube and PS2 and stuff is all running fine on most of these devices, and that would be an interesting world to live in. But for now, this emulator is available for your Apple Watch for $1.99. Let me know in the comments if you've tried it and how well it works for certain games. I assume RPGs work fine, but let me know if you tried playing a fast-paced platformer on it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Shift Up and Stellar Blade, which includes some estimated sales numbers as well as a new platform that they're gonna maybe try to get the game to here in the future. Now, this all came way of a press conference to go alongside of the company's IPO, and we can see this posted up and translated by VGC. They say the company's CEO echoed this, saying, "We are considering a PC version of Stellar Blade, but we cannot comment on the exact timing or whether or not it will be released due to the contractual relationship." Obviously, that's with Sony, as it is currently an exclusive for the PlayStation 5. We assume that there is some sort of expiration date on that, as we know that there have been expiration dates in the past with Square Enix, for example, with their Final Fantasy games, and we assume Final Fantasy 16 will be heading to PC here pretty soon because Square Enix just seems to say it all the time. In this case, though, Stellar Blade, it could be like a year, we'll say, of exclusivity, so maybe sometime next year we'll see Stellar Blade make the jump to PC. And I'm sure the mod scene will go crazy with that one. But Shift Up also claimed that sales of the game are estimated to have exceeded 1 million units worldwide, saying, quote, "Our goal was to create an IP with high value to ensure branding in the process of gathering users around the world and building a fan base rather than maximizing profits. In this process, we minimize the parts that users might feel uncomfortable with, such as microtransactions. For the sake of brand value, we plan to reflect these parts in a way that users can understand. However, it will not be immediate." And this is the long-term play by Shift Up. Sure, they sold out what they estimate just over 1 million units, which for a new IP that is technically limited to just the PlayStation 5, and while I know it has been building and building and building when it comes to its overall user base, still half of the PlayStation monthly active users are on the PlayStation 4. I figure when they go to PC at some point, they could rack up another million or so. I do think Stellar Blade in general is off to a pretty good start, most likely where their expectations were set. And the idea that not having microtransactions is more of a long-term play because yes, that can damage the, we'll say, credibility or maybe even the momentum of your brand, because that obviously would have taken over the news cycle to some degree. We would have talked about microtransactions in Stellar Blade, how egregious they are, why are they there, that kind of thing. In this case, though, they just delivered a new IP, Stellar Blade, that is pretty good. I'd say it's a pretty high-quality game. It's a fun game. And then they can look to build off of the characters, the lore, the world in the future. And yes, probably get to a point where they can have a game with microtransactions. Let's be real, that is the eventual goal, to make money. But at least for Stellar Blade, I'd say it's a pretty good start for Shift Up, as again, they were talking in a press conference for their IPO. So clearly, they have some pretty big plans going forward for the company. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, do you emulate games on your cell phone? 7% say yes, I use it all the time for emulating older titles. 33% say yes, but not very often. And then 60% say no, I don't emulate games on my phone. I think I fall into the middle category. It is one of those things where if I'm just kind of hanging out and there's like, I'm bored, I'm stuck somewhere, I'm just waiting, and you got 15 or 20 minutes, yeah, actually the phone works really well for that. But it is sort of a select number of games that I think work well on the phone, because otherwise you have to sort of plan to bring an attachment for the phone with you so you have actual buttons and joysticks. It's not that the phone can't necessarily emulate, say, PS2 games or GameCube. We've seen it. It's just, it's not the greatest experience with touch controls. That's something I would like to see maybe evolve a bit more, and then figure out, just companies in general, figure out something when it comes to maybe the overall feel of a touchscreen being used in a more precise control scheme. But it seems like it's worked well enough as it is for people, since the primary purpose of the phone is not to emulate games. It's just a nice side effect, side thing that it can do, right? But I will say, when you're just hanging out, you need something to do, the phone generally comes through. Just take a look around. Most people are even walking through towns and cities, just looking straight at their phone the whole time. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Waffle, who says, physical games keeps the hobby affordable. A game might still be $70 digitally, but physically, new or used, could be half the price or less. It certainly removes a ton of competition from the space, because once you say remove physical games from a storefront, we've seen what's happened with Amazon. I mean, Nintendo doesn't seem to like the idea of Amazon selling some of their first-party games, or pre-orders, nothing. They don't want to handle any of that. So you even kind of lose the idea of having early pre-order discounts just for competition's sake. And then also, when you remove physical games, you kind of lose the idea of just letting people borrow games. Remember those days? And it was common. You would have your N64 cartridge, we'll say, and you had GoldenEye, and your friend had Perfect Dark, and you're like, well, can we swap these? I'd love to try out Perfect Dark. You can play GoldenEye, see how that goes for you. And yes, occasionally you have that friend who accidentally deletes your 100% save file. I'm sure it happened to many people, but it was really cool to be able to just kind of swap games back and forth, provided everyone returned the games like they were supposed to. Does anyone else have that one friend who just happened to keep that copy of their N64 or Xbox or PlayStation game from back in the day? Let me know in the comments. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Luigi's Mansion 2 HD? Are you picking it up tomorrow? Or what about Jet Set Radio? Maybe getting a remake? Would you be excited if that got announced? And then also this emulator for the Apple Watch. Have you tried it out? And what do you think about the idea of playing, I don't know, a Pokemon game or even Super Mario World on your Apple Watch? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.